So Walford State of Mind. My guest tonight is EastEnders as reported by the Walford Gazette, edited by Larry Jaffee. My guest is Larry Jaffee, and the phone system here has changed, people, so that's why things are different. But boy, this book looks really cool. Becoming Ray Bradbury. Jonathan R. Eller. Uncorrected advance copy. I love the uncorrected proofs that I get. They're collector's items. So part 4, The Tyranny of Words. And hello. Wow. Try again. I'm sorry. Yep. Thank you. And our guest's been getting a busy signal, so we'll see what happens here. We'll try again. And welcome to Visual Radio.
Yo, hi, it's Larry.
Hey, Larry. We're here. Larry Jaffee and I are old friends. We go back, what, about a decade, Larry?
Yeah, it was probably around 2000 when we first met.
And you have a new book out called Walford State of Mind, EastEnders as reported by the Walford Gazette. It's the world's only fanzine dedicated to EastEnders. Did you start the Walford Gazette?
Yeah, I did start it with a friend of mine named Dan Abramson. We ran it together for the first 6 years. This is the 19th year, by the way. Dan and I went our separate ways, and then unfortunately Dan died like a year after we split the partnership. But I've been publishing it continuously for the past for the past 19 years on a quarterly basis.
Wow. Hey, hold on one second. Now, we've had some technical difficulties. I think you've helped us solve them. How's the voice coming through, Jeff?
Sounds good.
Larry, sounds good?
Yep.
All right, Larry, you're sounding good.
Oh, great.
I was surprised to see this book in the mail, so I'm going to backtrack a little. You were editor of Replication News.
Yeah, which later became Media Line. No,
right.
Magazine, but different name.
A fantastic magazine, and of course, my good friend Bruce Colfin, attorney, was a writer for you.
I didn't know you knew Bruce. See, here's another person we know in common.
Yeah, in fact, we're going to talk about that tonight. You and I have a lot of friends in common. You didn't know that I know Bruce?
I had no idea, no.
Bruce is a dear friend of mine. He works with Marty Ballin.
Right.
Works with Mick Taylor, and I, of course, am friends with both those fellows.
Yeah, I met Bruce through a guitarist that I used to manage named Jay Sikorsky. And, yeah, I knew another...
Hey, hold on, Larry. Jeff, could you close the door, man? Jeff! Hey, Jeff! Close the door. My director's talking, and I'm at my wit's end tonight. Thanks. So it's very distracting when people talk. I'm sorry, Larry.
So when I joined Replication News, I brought in a music lawyer to write a column. The first one was done by Bill Krasilovsky. He did it for about a year. And then he got, I guess, a little tired of it. So then that's how I was led to Bruce take it over.
Oh, very cool. All right, so this book, how did the book come about?
Okay, so I've been sitting on all this content over the past, I guess, I decided to do the book 17 years into publishing the newspaper. And I finally had some free time to really concentrate on it. So it was, I had a concept right from the start. I wanted to focus on the actors of the show. And I had over 80 interviews with current and past cast members.
Now, I know how busy you are, so you had interviews with all sorts of other people for Replication News and other magazines you were writing for.
Right. Well, I've been writing about the entertainment business since 1980 or so, as soon as I got out of college. You know, I was interviewing people like Dennis Hopper, you know, for a local weekly paper. I interviewed Ed Asner for Rolling Stone in 1983.
Do you have those on tape?
I think I recently found the Ed Asner tape. I think it's in a drawer, yeah. I have some of them. I don't think I have Hopper, but, you know, he was certainly one of the most interesting interviews I did. He was clearly still in his, you know, drug haze days.
Dennis. Oh, that's fascinating. So, boy, you landed Dennis Hopper early while you were in college, or right when you just got out.
When I got out,
Okay.
I think it was about 1982 or so, 81, 82 when I interviewed him.
Now, you've interviewed Ian Hunter.
Yeah, well, actually, I was in college the first time I met Ian Hunter. I was the arts editor, and then actually later the editor of the Hofstra Chronicle. And while I was still arts editor, this must have been 1978 or so, I get a phone call from, it was like a tip, and somebody said, Ian Hunter's going to be a special guest star tonight. And I was beside myself, because when I was a kid, my favorite band was Martha Hoople. You know, so...
Hopefully Brain Capers.
Well, that was actually my favorite. Yeah, I would say that was probably my favorite album of theirs.
Wow, I love that record.
Yeah, yeah. But I was too young. I was just a little too young to see them in their heyday. So I saw Ian when he went solo with Ronson all the time, you know. But I missed the Broadway tour. I did see Queen that year, so I don't really know why I didn't see Martha Hoople on Broadway. But I go down in the basement, and he was actually guesting with a band called, I think they were called the Dudes, believe it or not.
The Dudes, I've got their record. Wow.
Yeah,
and that was after all the Young Dudes.
Right. I guess it was.
Yeah, Mark Spector produced them. The guy from 38 Special produced them. Mark Spector might have managed them, but if you go to allmusic.com, I might have written the review of them.
Oh, all right. I had never heard of them, or since, actually, until tonight.
Yeah, so see, you've resurrected their career.
Right.
We both have.
So then I go down into the basement, and there is Ian Hunter. And I couldn't believe it. You know, so I walked up to him, I introduced myself, and we did like an impromptu interview at the time. And he told me how, you know, he took some time off, and, you know, I mean, basically he was owning up to, he had a bit of a nervous breakdown when he left Mott, you know. So he wasn't really anxious to just jump right into, this was like right before Never Be Alone with a Schizophrenic.
Right, and, you know, he wrote a book called Diary of a Rock Star.
Right. Yeah, no, I've read that, yeah.
Yeah, and it's a great book to have. It's not a difficult book. It's not as thick as the Martha Hoople book out on Cherry Red. But he had this nervous breakdown, or almost nervous breakdown. What do you think precipitated that? All the business?
Yeah, you know, they sort of pushed him into this whole image that he wasn't comfortable with to begin with, the whole glam thing. I think he enjoyed the partnership with Bowie, but it was brief, you know, in which I think the band got what they needed out of it, you know, and Bowie deserves all the credit for saving them.
He did save them,
yeah,
no doubt.
But you know, the thing is, the Mott album is every bit as good as All the Young Dudes, maybe even better, you know, and they produced that themselves, which I think is an amazing achievement. Those songs were great, every single one of them. It's like one of those albums that's great from beginning to end. And I think the album after the Hoople was a little. I mean, it was ambitious and it had some really good stuff on it. It wasn't as good as I think Mott.
Well,
and then, you know,
Boogie.
The story is well known. I mean, they just sort of, you know, it was time to call it day. You know, they tried Ronson in, you know, replacing Ariel Bender, and I think Saturday Gigs is a great song. And in fact, Ian played here in Hoboken on May 1st, and that was one of the songs he played live.
Was my friend Steve Hawley on drums?
I think he was, yeah. Steve was there. Yeah.
Now, Steve gave me a phone call, and boy, he and his wife have divorced, and Rob Fraboni and his wife divorced at the same time, and I brought Rob and Steve together about 3 years ago. It's kind of weird that they would both go through divorces. And so Steve called me to say he's got new contact info, and then I haven't talked to him since. I'm thrilled he played with Ian.
Yeah, it's great. Rob, by the way, is somebody else I've interviewed over the years.
Who? Rob?
I used to be a contributing editor to a Dylan magazine called On the Tracks.
Right, you told me that.
And Rob, he probably told you the same story about it.
Hello?
Yeah, he worked on the Planet Waves album.
Yes.
Okay, and he said Dylan was always paranoid about locking up the tapes after they were recording. You know, like he didn't want the tapes locked up in the vault. He thought somebody would steal them out of the vault. So one night, they find out about some blues guy who's playing in L.A. and they go to Dylan says, "Oh, let me drive. We'll take my van." So Rob looks inside the van, and there are the tapes from the recording sessions from the past week. And he didn't. The door open.
Larry, I just missed that. He found the tapes in the van, and then you cut out.
Oh, the door was unlocked of the van.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. So Rob says to him, "You won't like lock them in the vault, but you'll leave them in your van unlocked." You know.
Well, you know, Dylan wasn't really paranoid as much as cautious because, come on, who wouldn't want the Dylan album, you know?
Right.
It would be, you know, the Beatles were experiencing that. Stuff was just being lifted out of the vaults.
Yeah. No, but I mean, you know, Bob is a strange guy in terms of, you know, I did an article for High Times in 1992. It was like a career retrospective. I interviewed about 30 people, including his guitar technician, a guy named Cesar Diaz, who told these amazing stories about how once in the middle of a concert, Dylan would be looking at him and saying, he'd start pointing to the guitar. And you know, so they finished the song. Dylan runs off to the wing, gets the new guitar, and he says, "Cesar, there's no strings on this guitar." So Cesar like looks at the guitar, you know, after Dylan goes back on stage, and he says, "Not only were there 6 strings on the guitar, but they were perfectly in tune." So, you know, he had no idea what he was talking about.
Pretty funny. So that was High Times?
That was High Times, yeah.
So they wanted an article on Dylan. That's interesting.
It was around the time of Bob Fest.
Ah.
I was talking on a weekly basis to Elliot Mintz, who was Bob's publicist at the time, to see if I could get a first-hand interview with him. And Elliot was, you know, he never tried to dissuade me, but this was the days that Dylan really wasn't talking to journalists at all. I mean, even Robert Hilburn wasn't getting to talk to him in those days. So I ended up not getting to talk to him, but I ended up talking to, you know, about 15 to 25 of his close friends, people like Roger McGuinn, Chris Christopherson, Al Cooper, Rob Fraboni. You know, it was a pretty formidable list. Ratso Sloman, who probably wrote one of the best books about Dylan, he was a source. He was like sort of my backstage eyes. Ratso was a former editor of High Times, so that, you know, we had that nice little connection. I was sitting in like the 20th row of Bob Fest, you know, which was, you know, in retrospect, it was a good concert, but it wasn't a great concert. You know, and the best performers, I think, easily were Neil Young and maybe Lou Reed. But there was a lot of bad performances during that. I mean, I couldn't understand why John Mellencamp got 2 songs, whereas everybody else got 1. And the 2 songs he did like a Rolling Stone. I was like, how the hell was he chosen for that? And he wasn't even a Columbia artist at the time. Now, the funny thing is, I mean, since then, I've written about Mellencamp, and his last couple albums have been really good. So he surprised me. I wasn't much of a major fan back in the 80s and 90s of John Mellencamp.
No, John Cougar drives me bonkers, but, you know, the new Ian Hunter album, I did not give it the greatest of reviews. In the last 5 Ian Hunter discs, I've been over the top on. So I really wrestled with it, Larry. It took me 3 full weeks to write the review.
You talking about Man Overboard?
Yeah.
Last one?
Yeah.
I mean, Ian even, like, joked when I saw him a couple weeks ago. He said something like, you know, it was, you know, purchased by about maybe 5 people or something. There were a few songs I liked on it.
Oh, the Arms and Legs is amazing.
Yeah, I like the one about the girl in the office.
I don't like that one. I think it's kind of cheeky.
Oh, okay.
But that's all right. You like it. Arms and Legs, I thought, man, if you only gave this a good title, this is a hit.
Yeah. Now,
And,
getting back to EastEnders, by the way, on the Rant album, there was a song with in parentheses called EastEnders. And I got to ask Ian, was he thinking about the television show? And he said, yeah, he was. So I said, are you a fan? He says, no, but it's just like when you go to England, it's so omnipresent, you can't really avoid it. That's the one that the chorus says that this is real life, it's not EastEnders.
okay. And that's the whole reason I brought up Ian Hunter, because I knew you had interviewed him, and I wondered if there was some connection with EastEnders.
It's only the way, I always try to, find inner meaning into lyrics. Like, on the Hoople album, there was a song called Pearl and Roy. And, on EastEnders, there's a character there are characters called Pat and Roy. They were a couple. And you substitute Pearl for Pat, and it's basically that story. So, other than Ian using Rant, doing the song on Rant, there really is very little connection. But on the other hand, in my newspaper, the Walford Gazette, I actually devoted 2 pages to Mock the Hoople. I run periodically this thing called History of British Rock, and I basically expose my favorite British rockers over the years, and I've written about people like Eric Burden, Tom Jones. Once I did something on the Eurythmics. It's my paper. I can do what I want. It's sort of like your radio show, I guess.
Exactly. And, boy, this touches my heart, of course, because I knew you wrote for the Dylan magazine, Blood on the Tracks, but all the time we've known each other, I wasn't aware of your connection with this fanzine. I founded my record label on my fanzine, right?
No, I didn't know that. What was your fanzine called?
In 1969, when I was 15 years old, I wrote Varulven magazine, Varulven. And in 1976, I launched Varulven Records. And then I met Jimmy Miller in 1983, 7 years later, and, so from the humble beginnings of fanzines come, whatever, this archive I've created. I call it the Varchives,
Oh, okay.
But
I was in London in April, and my luck had it that there was a fanzines convention going on. And in fact, I'm featured on a fanzines blog out of the UK. A professor in London who's originally from Texas just published with Chronicle Books a book called Fanzines.
wow.
It got reviewed in the New York Times Book Review. So I contacted her, and she, as it turns out, she's a big EastEnders fan, and she featured me on her blog, which was really nice. And then we met, actually, when I was in London last month.
So maybe I should clarify for the audience what fanzines and bootleg records kind of run in a parallel world. Although bootlegs are illicit recordings, taped without the consent of the artist, ostensibly. Fanzines are generated by people who are just fans of whatever. Me, of horror movies, and Larry of, this TV show, EastEnders. Which people in America, I guess what I need to tell my audience is that Larry is one of the proponents of this British television program, trying to get it on in America, correct?
Well, it's actually on in America. What I'm trying to do is save it in America.
Save it in America.
Yeah, originally when it launched in the U.S., which was late 1987, it was on in about 50 public television stations. And now it's like 9 every year.
It's gone from 60 down to 9?
9, yeah.
In a world of an information superhighway, wouldn't you think good content would be available instead of infomercials on, cable television?
You would think. BBC America had the show on, and they canceled it in the fall of 2003. So my book actually details that whole fight to try to get it back on, and how I was in London, and a friend of mine just found out he was laid off from his job at the BBC.
So
The high echelons of the BBC, and they couldn't understand how I got their number. You know, and I said, well, that's, you know, no business of yours. Eventually, they let me speak with a pretty high-level president who oversaw the BBC America channel.
Well, this touches my heart. It is something that warms my heart because not only do you do this fanzine, and you've done it for, what, almost 20 years, right?
Yeah, almost 20.
Next year will be the 20th anniversary. But now you have this wonderful book, Walford State of Mind, EastEnders, as reported by the Walford Gazette, edited by Larry Jaffee, forwards by Michelle Collins and Mal Young. Who are Michelle Collins and Mal Young?
Okay, Michelle was one of the actresses on the show for about 10 years. She played a character named Cindy Beale, and she and I have been great friends over the past 10 years or so. And Mal Young was the head of drama from the BBC. And he was like one of these rare television executives who saw the value in people like you and me, Joe, in terms of, you know, being proponents and evangelists, and basically doing the job that the major networks should be doing, you know.
It's so logical. It's a no-brainer, and I love that word. Thank you, evangelists. We are spreading the gospel.
That's right.
This show spreads the gospel of what's cool in pop culture.
Now,
And,
now
you know,
Mal, in fact, as a token of his appreciation, gave me a street sign that they use as props on the show from time to time, and the entire cast had signed it. You know, it was autographed by everybody on the cast, which, you know, is pretty a remarkable thing, and, you know, it's probably valuable. I probably could auction it on eBay for $1,000 or something like that. And now is no longer with the BBC, and in fact, in March, I was doing a book tour stop in Los Angeles, and he showed up as well as two of the actresses who now live in Los Angeles. You know, they used to live in London.
fascinating.
He couldn't believe that there were fan clubs in the U.S. devoted to EastEnders. He really got a kick out of it.
Now, you know, next month there's this ReaderCon in Boston. Do you know about it?
No, what's that?
It's this like 20-year-old science fiction convention created by friends of mine. Now, this is hilarious. I went to it last year for the first time. It's a science fiction convention held up the road in the next town over, Burlington. I'm in Winchester, so there's Winchester and Burlington and Woburn all right in a row. So ReaderCon is held at this Burlington hotel, and Eric Van, who's born on my birthday, same year, same day, amazing, right? And Bob Colby, two veterans of the Boston rock and roll scene, had come up with this ReaderCon along with Kathy Logue. You were just at the book, what's it called, the book thing?
Oh, Book Expo America.
And at the Book Expo America, there was a blog expo?
Well, it was concurrent. Yeah, it was something called Blog World.
So Blog World was concurrent, but not part of it.
Right. It was on the north part of the Javits Center. And
Oh, so is that the same place?
yeah, same place.
Brilliant, because the two of them are pretty aligned, don't you think?
Oh, yeah. You have the book publishing companies trying to get, you know, as much social media going for their authors. So, in fact, I said to one of the blog guys, I find what you're doing much more interesting what's going on the other side of the building.
Well, the key is, Larry, again, you and I have enough insight. I mean, you've got an incredible resume. I'm going to say it before I get to this next topic. But, you know, you've written for Rolling Stone, a plethora of magazines, right?
Yeah.
You've got the experience. It's a no-brainer for them to call guys like us up and just ask, you know, hey, where do you think the industry should be going? But they make these moves like knee-jerk reactions without evaluating, properly evaluating.
I think the key is, you know, that the tools are available for anyone to be a publisher these days. And, you know, like you say, we've seen them make so many mistakes. So, yeah, I'm actually kind of tired of working for these companies that just don't see the big picture.
Now, I loved working for you over at Replication News and Media Line because I got to interview Paul Williams, the great mastering engineer. And I did that Jimi Hendrix box set, the one on the Uni label, because now they're with Sony, the Hendrix people.
You also did Dinky Dawson. Was his name Dinky Dawson?
Yeah, Dinky's a dear friend of mine. I just put a video up of him like last night. We have a YouTube here, youtube.com/Viglione Joe. So, you know, I'll post some of this interview. Well, I'll put the whole interview up, Larry.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, so the EastEnders can hear what Larry Jaffee has to say tonight.
Yeah, I'll spread the link to my my universe as well.
And it's wgazette.com. That's a great email.
Yeah,
it's a great web address.
Yeah, so the newspaper is called Walford Gazette, and actually on the show there is a Walford Gazette.
There's actually a newspaper. Did you create that before they had the Walford Gazette or after?
After.
So you modeled it. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I mean, the show was launched in the UK in February 1985, and we started the newspaper, I think it was November 1992, when we did like the preview issue.
Larry Jaffee has edited several magazines and has been published in the New York Times, Rolling Stone, Parade, Vibe, and numerous other publications. He is the author of Albert Square and Me, the Actors of EastEnders, and may be reached at walfordgazette@gmail.com. So I didn't know you had a second book out about the EastEnders.
Oh, yeah. The first one was Albert Square and Me, and the new one is Walford State of Mind.
So you've got two books out, and these are basically stories from the fanzine.
Right. There's some new original material, but yeah, I'd say the bulk of it is taken from the newspapers. In the new book, by the way, there are two articles. The first one was written by Lenny Kaye and his wife Stephanie about how EastEnders saved their marriage.
That was my next question. You stole my question from me.
Oh, okay.
No, that's cool. All right, so we're going to talk about Lenny Kaye and Stephanie Kaye. How EastEnders saved our marriage. See, I got it right here.
Yeah. Now, it's funny with Lenny, obviously I was a big Patti Smith fan right from the start.
Exactly.
When I was in high school, I snuck into my father's place and met Patti downstairs.
John Cale was with her when I went and saw her.
At that point, I was like 17 years old, and I met Lenny for the first time.
Was John Cale on bass?
What's that?
John Cale on bass?
I don't think he played that night, no.
I saw him in Boston on bass with her.
Wow. Yeah, well, of course, John produced the Horses album.
Which is brilliant because you got Nico's producer producing Patti.
Right.
And, Lou Reed got her the record deal with Arista.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Lou Reed walked into Clive Davis's office and said, sign Patti Smith, and he said, okay.
Wow. I always thought Lou was somewhat jealous of Patti, maybe later or something.
Oh, I've never heard that. But Lou got her the record deal, according to legend, and John produced the album, so you've got the specter of the Velvet Underground around her.
Well, on the Take No Prisoners album, you know that? The Live at the Bottom?
Oh, I love that album.
At one point, Lou blurts out, he goes, fuck Radio Ethiopia, I'm Radio Brooklyn.
Well, I'm sure he said it with tongue-in-cheek.
Really funny, actually.
Because he was lambasting Clive Davis at that event, right?
Yeah, actually, he made fun of everybody. I mean, especially John Rockwell from the New York Times, Robert Piriscow from Village Voice.
Well, that's why it's called Take No Prisoners.
It's one of my favorite albums, actually, to this day, actually.
All right, and you know what I love about it? When I was back there in high school, I wanted to play football for the coach, Coney Island Baby.
Right.
Lou came to Boston with Doug Yule, played the Wang Center. I think he packed the place because he has a big following here. He did the tour before the album came out. I think he needed money at the time. So he, I'm guessing, or maybe he just felt like touring. I don't know. But I went to the gig, and it was an amazing concert.
What year was that?
Oh, it had to be right before Coney Island Baby, so it had to be 74. Or maybe 75.
So I guess they buried the hatchet.
Yeah, Doug Yule and Lou were on stage together, and Doug was playing keyboards, and they did Nelson Slater's Complete the Story Now. Now, Nelson's been a guest of my show. He's on my Facebook. Nelson went to college with Lou Reed. So Lou produced the Wild Angel album for him on RCA.
Right.
Lou had this ability to get people signed because he's Lou Reed.
Yeah.
So Doug is doing this gig with him, and they do Coney Island Baby, and it blew me away. Absolutely blew me away. You know, and so the album comes out. And it was a good version of Coney Island Baby, but it was kind of stale. It works so much better live, and I think Take No Prisoners caught it. It's such an important song.
Yeah, that's true.
And you know, Lou has not hit it out of the park as much with the Coney Island Babies and the Perfect Days and the songs that are just so extraordinary.
But he's still capable of doing great live shows. I mean, I saw him about 3 years ago, and he had John Zorn on saxophone. And it was like an amazing band, first of all, and Lou was great. I mean, you know, it was really top form.
But, you know, I love to see Lou doing a lecture tour, doing lectures, or I interviewed Ian Anderson, and I said, man, I'd love to see you on the lecture tour. But he says, I'm not Tony Blair. But he's so articulate, as Lou Reed is.
Right.
And essayists. These guys are great essayists.
Yeah. You know, and I interviewed Lou for Media Line. Getting back to that, and that, you know what it's like to meet your heroes. You know, I mean, you know, pretty much the only one who I haven't met, I think, is Dylan. You know, I don't lose sleep over not doing that. But
yeah, but I would imagine at this point in time, with your resume and with Dylan's, you know, Dylan's been around so long, he should welcome an interview with you.
Well, you know, part of it is. I mean, it's not to say I don't have a venue. I mean, I am a current writer for something called the Audiophile Voice, and the publisher there, Gene Pitts, is a huge Dylan fan. So I'm sure if I called Gene and said, hey, I got an exclusive with Dylan, he would run it. But it's not easy selling articles these days. You know, it's really tough.
Hey, tell me, you know, we're in the same biz.
Getting assignments and... you know, last year I was in a program for outplaced media professionals with Wayne Robbins, the influential rock critic for Newsday all those years, and he got laid off. You know, so
you can't take it personally, you know. But you know what?
Yeah.
Like a fanzine. Well, here's another thing. This visual radio is like an electronic fanzine,
right?
Isn't it? You know, this is what fanzines do, and you know, it's a public access show. But it's an electronic fanzine. I mean, I'm all psyched to get this Becoming Ray Bradbury book. Jonathan R. Ellen, The Uncorrected Advance Proof. You might be interested in something like this. It's the University of Illinois Press. Chronicles the making of an iconic American writer. I mean, you're into Bradbury, right?
You know, I'm not that much into science fiction and stuff, but I haven't read them, actually.
Oh, well, I've read him, and I love the guy, of course, but to have a book about him, and I welcome the author coming through, you know, and having him on.
Oh, sure.
But I just got this in the mail, so I thought I'd bring it. And you know what I got in the mail, too, was Derek and the Dominoes, Layla. Double disc.
Yeah.
I think there's a box set out.
Yeah. I remember in the, like, around 1990, I had the box set at that time, which had all the outtakes. I'm not a big Clapton fan anymore. It might be when I was actually backstage at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and I tried to hand him a copy of the Dylan magazine, and he wouldn't accept it. You know, neither did Robbie Robinson, for that matter. so maybe both of them sort of were tarnished in my mind since then. But I believe that Clapton's best work was on Layla. I mean, and the Derek and Domino's in concert album I like a lot.
Yeah, this one sounds very heavy on Duane Allman. I don't know if they remixed it. I got to talk to Forboni about that. But hey, Larry, I'm running out of time. It's about 8:36 now, right?
Yeah, 8:37.
Wow, we've had. I'd love to have you in studio. We could do a couple of hours talking about all this good pop culture.
If I'm up there, I'll certainly give you a call.
All right, the book is Walford State of Mind, EastEnders, as reported by the Walford Gazette. Second book on the EastEnders by Larry Jaffee. Larry, thank you so much for calling in, and I'm going to be in closer touch, man.
Thanks, Joe. Same here. It was great to get back. I guess we have Facebook, actually, to thank for that.
Yeah, thanks to Facebook, old friends get to reconnect.
Right.
You know, we're going to talk about Ken Capabianco and and all the other people we know together.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Joe.
Bye. And that was Larry Jaffee. And, all right, you know what? let's call. We're going to get a sports talk in right now with Johnny Byers.
Oh.
Johnny Byers.
Hi, Joe. How are you?
Good. Hey, Jeff, are you out there? Hello, man.
Hi.
Just want to say hi. Johnny Byers is on the phone. If Jeff wants to come in, he can. But I guess not. Are the Bruins playing right now?
Well, they're 6.5 minutes out from the end of the first period, and it's 0-0.
Okay. And Jeff is nodding. Hey, Jeff. Jeff Dearman is our director tonight. I don't think we have a mic for him, but you and Jeff Dearman got to connect.
Most definitely.
Tell Jeff what we did on Wednesday.
Well, we went to a big event in Boston at the Heinz Convention Center, and basically it was a business event, but the thing that brought us out there was they had a sit-down conversation with the 3 of the 4 major owners in the Boston sports teams. That would be Charlie Jacobs, who I had a chance to talk to. I got a chance to ask Larry Lucchino a question, and I got a chance to talk to Steve Pagliuca of the Celtics.
Wow.
And,
hey, you know what I'd like to do? I'd like to turn it over to Jeff for a minute. So I want you guys on the air.
Okay.
Because, Jeff, you can sit down right here. Jeff Dearman is our director, and he and Johnny can talk.
Well, Jeff is getting set. I can tell you the Sox are up 6-2, and for the 3rd day in a row,
Crawford.
in a row, they put up a 5-run inning.
Wow. Oh, I also want you to talk. You can just talk into it if you want. I also want you to talk to Jeff about, is it cool to talk about Damon?
Yeah.
Not Johnny Damon.
Damon Amendola of 98.5 says when I get my sports show on back and running up on WinCam, he would like to be the first guest.
That's awesome. Yeah, I hear you call in from time to time, and I know they were missing you at the station last couple weeks, so I hope you can get back in touch.
It's been somewhat busy with me, but I had a chance to speak with Damon earlier this week on the radio, and he said most definitely when I get the show back up and running, he'd love to come on as a guest again.
Yeah, if I've heard you call in, you're really knowledgeable about sports, so we should have you down at the studio here and have a regular show.
Yeah, we went to the thing in the Heinz Convention Center, and it was very interesting. The ownerships, like I say, I did have a chance to talk to the 3 owners, although I only was able to get 2 of them on camera talking to me. But I talked to Charlie Jacobs, and he was a very nice guy, and of course I let him know how I felt about his team.
That's my boss, by the way.
What?
I'm one of the ushers at the Garden. If you didn't, I don't know if you ever.
Well, he understood where I'm coming from, because like I told him, I was 5 years old when this team last won the Stanley Cup. I said, point blank, I said to him, is this the year that you break the 38-year curse of your team, your ownership not winning a Stanley Cup? And he says, very possible. He says to me, how do I know it's 38 years? And I told him the whole story about when I was 5 years old, they won the Stanley Cup, and a couple of days later, my parents took me, my brother, and my sister over to the Federal Reserve Bank in Boston, and we have a picture here. My mother is holding my brother in her arms, me by one hand, and holding the stroller in the other hand with my sister, and my father is behind the camera taking the picture of all of us standing in front of the Stanley Cup.
That's cool. So if you don't mind me asking, what did you ask? Is that what you asked Charlie, or?
No. What I asked. Basically, what happened was with Larry Lucchino, I had a chance to ask him only one question. So I asked him within the 10 years that they've been in ownership of this team, and all the refurbishment that they did on the Fenway Park, did they ever think of putting a dome on the stadium? Where once during the season we have these monsoonal rains, which we have about a week or so of rain, which causes havoc on the schedule. And he says, he said to me that we did think of it, but we didn't think it was feasible. And I did say it is feasible. I told him it was feasible because back in the late '80s, early '90s, on the Sports Final Show with Bob Lobel, when Lobel was hosting it, they had a young man come in who was studying architecture in Boston. at one of the colleges. He was taking architecture courses, and his final test was to remodel one of the Boston landmarks, and he picked Fenway Park, and the only remodeling he did to it, which was what everyone says couldn't be done, was put a dome on it.
Yep.
A retractable dome. So, I mean, it shows it can be done.
Yeah, it would make sense to have a retractable roof because, and when it rains, they can just shut the roof. They wouldn't have to have as many rain delays. They could have more concerts in the wintertime and things like that, more revenue.
Well, yeah, see, now, because I was so short on time with Lucchino, I had one other question. Hopefully, when we get him in studio, if we can ever get him in studio before next year, I can pose the question to him regarding next year is the 100th anniversary of Fenway Park. Why not host a Celtics game there in April, preferably against the Lakers, and do it on a Saturday afternoon at noontime?
Oh, that would be unbelievable. I mean, what they've already had, let's see, they had soccer.
They had the hockey game.
They had soccer.
They have concerts every year. But, well, see, here's the thing now. You host the Celtics in the afternoon on the Sunday afternoon at noon.
And then a doubleheader with the Red Sox.
And the Red Sox at night. But then I go one step farther. Come September when the Patriots start, you do the same thing. Patriots, New York Giants at noontime, Sox, New York Yankees at 8. And the reason why I picked the noontime for the football game is because, as we all know, a football game usually takes 2-3 hours to play. So by starting the game at 3 o'clock, you give them enough time to get the field back in play so that they can open up the gates at 5 o'clock to start letting the fans in for the baseball game.
Mm-hmm. And that would be amazing to have a basketball game with Celtics Lakers at Fenway Park. That would be insane.
Oh yeah, I mean,
even bigger than the Winter Classic, I think. But
they got the new kids on the block with the Backstreet Boys coming in next month to play at the Garden. Matter of fact, at the Garden, one weekend, and then they're staying over in Boston for the following weekend, and they're going to play a Saturday concert at Fenway Park, which is big for the new kids. Matter of fact, just to show you, the new kids who are on tour with the Backstreet Boys are going to be on the Today Show Summer Concert Series next week.
Really? Johnny.
What?
I'm going to have to hang up with you because Frank Dello Stritto's going to call in.
Yep.
This has been great, but we're going to have a show here with Damon and Mendelara.
Yeah.
And I think that you and Jeff, and I'll direct,
mm-hmm.
and you and Jeff can go over the footage we taped of Lucchino, Pagliuca, the whole panel we did.
Yeah.
And Mayor Menino.
Yeah.
And we can make it 3 shows out of it. The show with Damon and Mendelara, and even Damon can help us introduce these clips.
Right.
This is going to be a great threefer to start off your new show.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to talk about it, Joe. I mean, at this point right now, it's still on the drawing board, but
I think you and Jeff are going to have great chemistry because he does the games.
Yep.
You know a lot of people. Johnny knows people. This is going to be magic.
Yep.
I'm very excited, John. What's the scores? Then we got to go.
It is now 6-2 Red Sox in the 6th inning with 2 outs, and let me see if I can get you a Bruins score right now.
All right, and then I got to get Frank on.
It's at the end of 3 periods. It's 1 period. It's 0-0.
Excellent. Johnny Byers. Man, it was a fun week for us, huh?
John the Kid Byers.
All right, Johnny.
I'll be talking to you, Joe.
John from Medford.
Bye-bye.
We'll update the blog. Bye.
Yep.
So, Jeff, this is your first time on Visual Radio. You were on Soapbox with me, right?
Yes, I believe one time, yep.
Yep, but, all right, now we...
Of course, I've been directing behind the scenes. But
you've been directing behind the scenes, and now my friend Frank can call in. And you know what? I might even phone him, and I'll take my mic back. I'll take my mic back from you.
Oh, there you go.
And it's very exciting, people. Thank you very much, Jeff.
Yep, thank you.
And, yeah, I didn't mean to get antsy, but when the doors open, I hear a lot of extraneous noise.
Don't worry about it, Joe V.
All right, cool, man.
The Count.
The Count. The artist formerly known as The Count, like Prince. And let's see the phone numbers. I called the wrong number. Here we go. I called the wrong number. And we're going to talk about The Boy in the Bubble. The Boy in the Bubble with John Travolta is our public domain movie. And it's been a great night here again, Visual Radio. Walford State of Mind, Johnny Byers, Hey, is Frank around? Yeah, the line is open, man. Thanks. And I think we've got maybe 8 minutes left to the show. I wanted to give Frank some time. Are you there? Hello? Hold on. Are you there?
I'm here. Am I on the air?
Yes, and we got a really crisp signal tonight.
Okay.
And I wanted to give you extra time because, you know, you've been cheated the past few weeks, so I told our sports host, you know, so we get some time.
Okay, so I appreciate that. And tonight you're showing The Boy in the Plastic Bubble, is that right?
John Travolta.
John Travolta, this is not the movie that put him on the map because he was already kind of well known through the TV show he was in, and Welcome Home, Kotter. But this is probably the one that put him on the map as a dramatic actor. And this is the one that didn't get him in the tabloids, but this his romance with his leading lady, who played his mother in the film.
Whoa. Whoa. I did not know that.
Okay, well, his parents are played by Robert Reed, who did a lot of television work, and Diane Hyland, who I had, before this I had only seen her in a Twilight Zone episode, but she was 17 years older than him. But they fell in love, and this is a tragic story. I think she already had breast cancer and had a mastectomy when they met. But it was around that time because for 4 months after this movie showed on television, she died. And I believe she died in his arms, and she was given an Emmy for this movie, and he accepted on her behalf, and it was really a sad thing, you know. Because even though it was a cross-generation romance, he was obviously in love with her. And he always said he would have married her had she lived, and he was heartbroken at the Emmy Awards that year when he accepted for her.
Well, it was kind of a summer-autumn romance. It wasn't spring-winter, you know?
Well, he was born 1954, so he was 22, and she would have been close to 40. Let's say 40. 22 and 40.
You know, I've been there.
Yeah, been there, done that. So, but it was tragic for that, and that put him on a, I wouldn't say put him on the map, it put him on a different map. And a year later, he had Saturday Night Fever, and the rest is history, as they say.
But, you know, he has had more of a tragic life than people realize.
Yeah, I mean, that was his first public tragedy, and I guess his last public tragedy is losing his son the way he did. Well, he losing his son anyway, but losing his son. So, no, things haven't been all peaches and cream for him. And professionally, he was got off to a bang in the mid to late 70s, and then the 1980s were pretty desperate for him until Pulp Fiction brought him back. So
now, my roommate watched that last night. He's watched it about 5 times. I refuse to watch it.
Why do you refuse to watch it?
It's too violent for me. And of course I watch violent movies, but I'm not into them. If there's violence in a movie and I like the movie for other reasons, so be it. But Pulp Fiction, I just don't want to endure it. Yeah. It's too much. That
brings up an interesting point. Nothing to do with tonight's movie, but it's hard to recommend a movie to somebody unless you know their threshold for violence, or their threshold for obscenity, their threshold for explicitness.
Even Clockwork Orange is a bit too rough for me.
Yeah. But let me tell you, I worked with a secretary once who was as straight as an arrow, a very devout Christian, very proper and all that, and she asked me if she should go see On Golden Pond, the movie about aging with Lee Fonda and Katharine Hepburn. I said, oh yeah, it's a family movie. And I told her that on Friday, and on Monday I saw her. I said, how'd you like the movie? And she said, I walked out because that kid cursed so much.
Oh my God. If On Golden Pond is too heavy for someone?
Yeah. So I hesitate to recommend movies to anybody, and because you got to have a threshold. Pulp Fiction can be a very funny movie, but you got to get over some really strong stuff.
Well, I'm going to see X-Men, which would be like what, the 5th X-Men movie now. On Tuesday. I'm going to get the preview. I missed one today, Frank, but they're going to let me watch it online. Some New York Times movie, a documentary. So I'll be interviewing the director. And I just had Larry Jaffee on. Larry's an old editor of mine. And he has a book out called Walford State of Mind about EastEnders, the BBC program. Do you know it?
Oh, yeah, I know.
I never heard of it. Hello? Oh, we just lost Frank. We lost Frank. Sorry about that. He can call back. He will call back. But my whole point about this was that, we were going on the movie tangent. Well, tonight's movie is The Boy in the Plastic Bubble with John Travolta. And see that? The phone goes off and Bluesheimer sets in and I lose my train of thought. But it's a fascinating show tonight. Really cool stuff we discussed because the event on Wednesday that Johnny Byers and I attended was really fascinating for an expo. And boy, I feel really badly that, you know what? The phone might have run out of juice. I don't know what happened here, people. The night I wanted to give Frank a lot of time to talk. Don't know what happened. But, anyways, I got Entertainment Weekly in the mail. Oh, I was talking about X-Men, right. X-Men and this New York Times thing. And I had interviewed Richard Iodade. 1 minute left? Phone cut out, and I don't know why. I think it was on Frank's end.
Oh, really?
And he hasn't called back. It's the night I give him a lot of time, you know. But Harry Potter's coming out, the last hurrah of Harry Potter, and I'll be reviewing that. I didn't see the last Harry Potter. I usually go to all of them, and I didn't see the last one. The last two, actually. Okay, so the last two, the previous one I've been picking up dribs and drabs on cable. Best romantic comedy ever made. Crazy Stupid Love, July 29th. Oh, very cool. All right, people, I got the gist of it. Best of Summer, Entertainment Weekly, 9 must-see TV shows, movies, 106 things you will love.